Vanessa, and we got Will on the line. What do you want to ask?
What has been the biggest lesson you've learned that might benefit new investors?
From the perspective of getting started in multifamily, my biggest lesson and what I always tell people is start small and start in a specific market. Focus on a very specific market because you need to build those brokerage relationships. You need to understand what the market is going for. You don't want your broker network to be a mile wide and an inch deep. You want it to be very concentrated, and so you have a lot of knowledge. And when they think of something that might not even be listed, you can see it before anybody else does. And again, you want to do it at a price point that's accessible. I never encourage people to start off by saying, I'm going to dive right into $20 million properties.
I'm Brian Briscoe, host of the Diary of an Apartment Investor podcast. And this podcast is different than everything else out there. I bring together a new and an experienced investor on each episode, and I let the aspiring investor ask the questions that they need answered. So if you're an aspiring investor yourself, you probably will have the exact same questions. Now, before we get to this episode, make sure you hit the subscribe button below and that little bell to make sure you get notified every time we post a new episode. And now, enjoy the show.
Welcome to the Diary of an Apartment Investor podcast. I'm your host, Brian Briscoe with Streamline Capital. Got a great show for you today. We've got our experienced investor, Will Matheson, on, and aspiring investor, Vanessa Medina. So, guys, welcome to the show today.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me, Brian.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think most listeners understand this, a tradition. We bring our experienced investor on first, and Will, that's you today. So Will, how are things going?
I always say things are going pretty well. We're not the lead sponsor on anything with floating rate debt, so we feel pretty good about that right now.
Right? Yeah, I'm in the same position, not lead sponsor or anything with floating rate. I did co-GP on a property with floating rate debt, and yeah, fortunately, that's got a rate cap. So, the rate cap isn't the issue there. But yeah,
we're in the same boat. We worked with another team on a rate capped deal, but I mean those hikes started spring 22. So 2-year caps are coming up fast.
Yeah, we bought a property. Actually, it was in spring 22. It was after I think the second rate increase is when we got that rate cap, and so far it's already saved us millions. But yeah, once again, that's a 3-year rate cap, so we got a little more runway, but we're already halfway through. So you got to start thinking about that already.
Time flies.
Yep. So, well, yeah, tell us about yourself and what got you into multifamily.
Yeah, so my name is Will Matheson. I run Matheson Capital with my twin brother, Evan.
Okay.
And, my first job out of college was at Matheson Vanessa as a broker, doing primarily retail, a little bit of student housing, a little bit of multifamily, but primarily retail. And being on the brokerage side of things, we really decided, okay, this is great, but I want to be on the ownership side of things. So we leave brokerage early 2017, go to Columbia University for their master's in real estate development program, met a lot of great people, learned a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And before we graduated, we bought our first multifamily deal, literally a duplex. So, I mean, some wouldn't even categorize that as multifamily, but we bought a duplex in Los Angeles. And ever since then, we've done 13 other acquisitions in the multifamily student housing space, totaling over $100 million. Haven't really looked back since.
Nice. So when you say we, you and your twin brother both went back to school together. Were you both working at brokerages together, or what?
We were on the same team at Matheson Vanessa too. The only time we've really been apart, we went to different undergrad schools.
Mm-hmm. All right. Awesome. Well, I mean, that's kind of like the stereotypical twin thing, I guess. But, my father-in-law is a twin, and I know how tight and close he was with his twin brother, but a lot of goodness there. So awesome that you're able to partner up with him like that. But okay, so master's degree from Columbia, which is kind of a big deal. And then you founded Matheson Capital. How did that progression go with Matheson? I think, how did you get it off the ground, and how did you scale from there?
So a bit of a funny story. Matheson Capital, I graduated, or I should say, but I too.
Yeah.
Graduated Columbia spring 2018. Matheson Capital, we actually started in, I want to say August or June 2015 as a hard money lender. We had a client doing a 1031 exchange. They split their exchange. And we, they had a time crunch, and we thought, I bet we could raise this money, $1 million, get them the equity they need, put a first loan on another property. But as far as, scaling, that was a one-time thing. Like I said, we bought our first apartment building in January 2018. Our scaling, we really took it from the approach of, we're 25 when we buy our first one.
Mhm.
We know we're not going to raise, $5 million to buy a property.
Yeah.
Quite frankly, like why would $5 million worth of investors give two 25-year-olds money? I know other people have done it, but I wasn't feeling that confident. So we went out there and we said, look, we're going to start small and we're going to do really quick holds, buy, sell, take some things full circle, recycle the capital, not 1031 exchange recycle, but recycle it. So in 2018, we do a 2-unit deal that we held for 6 months or for 2 months. We buy a 6-unit deal we held for 18 months. 2019, we're buying 3 properties. The biggest one's 3.3 million. 2020, we buy another couple properties below $3 million. And then 2021, we start hitting our stride a bit. We buy, I don't know, I want to say 7.7 or $6.7 million property. We do get the opportunity to work with a larger sponsor on a couple of student deals. One closes in 21, one closes early 22.
Nice.
And then we sell most of our portfolio Q4 21, Q1 22.
Great
So
time
the
to sell,
last
by the way.
very, very fortunate in the timing there. And ever since then, we've kind of been taking advantage of the slumping market and some good lending relationships we have. So we are, we buy 3 deals as a lead in 22. We've bought 1 deal so far this year, and we're currently under contract on a distressed property right now.
Okay. Awesome.
So that's the growth story. That's 15 acquisitions.
Now, I'm going to ask you a question, and I mean, there's no right answer. Some people preach that if you want to end up in the $10 million space, the 100-unit space, you might as well start there. You guys started with a duplex to a 6-plex and gradually moved up. Looking back at it and with 2020 hindsight, would you have done it any differently, knowing what you know now?
No, I really wouldn't have. I know my thought, and people can disagree, but my thought on go for the 10 million, go for the $20 million properties. 10 million doesn't go as far as it used to. My thought on those things is if you don't own anything, you're fighting an uphill battle with the brokers.
Yeah.
Because you get into $10 million space, you're not finding it on the MLS. You're dealing with CBRE, you're dealing with Cushman. They already know everyone who owns 10 million and $20 million properties.
They do.
So if you're coming in there as a first-time buyer, you've got no reputation, you have no track record. The only way you're getting that property is if you overpay. And you could pretty easily overpay for a lot of stuff the last 5 years and still get bailed out.
Yeah.
But, even doing the small deals, even buying a $3 million property, that gives you credibility for when you try to buy this $6 million property. That $6 million property gives you credibility for when you try to buy the $10 million property.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree. And honestly, I did a pivot recently. We were buying a lot of stuff in the Southeast, left the partnership, started my own thing. And I actually dialed down my deal size for the same reason. New market, but yeah, we'll scale a lot faster this time. But same philosophy for me. I think I'm on board more with the start small, get something in there, build your credibility. And just for that broker reason that you mentioned, a lot of people don't realize that brokers know the people who own stuff and they know people who buy stuff. And when a newcomer comes in, I think there's always a question mark in their head. And you being a former broker, I mean, let's actually pull that string a little bit more. You being a broker with Matheson Vanessa, what was your view of the brand new wannabe apartment investor?
Well, so I was primarily doing retail at Matheson Vanessa, which it's a pretty different thing, but I will give you a broker I talked to, his perspective on the brand new apartment investor, because I actually wanted to follow up on that and the importance, in my opinion, of starting small. And I asked, he's in a much better position to know this. He has buyers calling him all the time. And this is a generality. It's not a real statistic that he tracked, but he said, look, a lot of people, they want to get into the GP space. They want to raise money. They want to syndicate. 90% of them are never going to be a lead sponsor.
Yeah.
They're going to say, I'm going to do it. They'll be a co-GP. They're not going to be the lead sponsor. Another 9% on top of that, they'll maybe buy a deal as the lead. Because until you've raised money, a lot of people will tell you they're interested in doing it.
Yeah.
When you put a deal in front of them, it's a lot harder. And then, 1% are going to end up doing it full time. I always tell people it's not as easy as it looks. And paraphrasing the broker, his name is Chris Yeagle. He's here in Charleston, South Carolina too.
Mhm. Yeah.
You know, if you're starting in that bigger space, it's just such an uphill battle. And
Yeah.
you see the success stories. You see Tides, you see Rise 48, you
Oh,
see
yeah.
all those guys. But
Yeah.
a lot of people never make it that far.
You know,
It's hard.
Rice 48 didn't start in that big space. They actually started. I've had both Zach and his partner. His name, drawing a blank on the name. I shouldn't, but I've had both of them on the podcast, and they started with like a 30 unit. So
No,
yeah.
I listened to them talk about buying a 30 unit in, I want to say February 2019, but I mean, they started small and they've scaled. I just use them as an example of, very, very few people who get into it
Okay. Yeah.
really just
Got it.
go
Got it.
absolutely huge. Like Zach is an incredible outlier in that
He is.
sense.
He is.
I'm really amazed by the amount of money he's been able to raise.
Yeah, he's there. They are amazing. But yeah, I mean, you mentioned that 90. There's kind of like a 99-1 rule on like internet platforms. I think it's the same thing with the real estate community. You know, when you're looking at like internet communities, it's 90% of the people are lurkers, and this is going to apply to LinkedIn. This is going to apply to Facebook. You know, all your social media type things. 90% of the people are lurkers. 9% of the people will post occasionally, and it's 1% that moves the needle. You know, on your Twitter, on your LinkedIn. Yeah, it's the 1% that moves the needle on those platforms. And so yeah, I think it's exactly the same in the real estate world, where you got a lot of people who want to do it, who are going to say they're going to do it, but it's the 1% to move the needle.
I mean, yeah, it's an extreme Pareto distribution. It's beyond a Pareto distribution.
So, well, cool. Well, let's talk a little bit about some of the deals you've done. So pick your first or your favorite, or just one you want to talk about, and let's go into a little bit of detail on that one.
I would say one of my favorite deals was a deal we did. It was Country Club Apartments. Is a small, this is 2020, March 2020. We're doing this, and to date, the biggest property we'd ever bought was $0.3 million. We buy this property, or we find this property. I think it was on like the local MLS or something. 32 units, 50% occupied, in our backyard. I'm based in Charleston. Somerville's in the Charleston MSA, and we find it. We start working on it. The reason I have such fond memories of it is we had a lot of first-time investors on that deal that have really grown with us, and they're some of our repeat best investors. Really appreciate them. It was just such a funny coincidence in so many ways. It's 50%. You think, oh, this is going to be like really tough. It's a value-add deal. It was also the start of our best lending relationship, by the way.
Yeah.
Then we buy it on March 6th, I want to say. March 6th, 2020. Then COVID happens. COVID was already creeping up, but that's when the eviction moratoriums and everything come up, and a lot of people are freaking out. What are we going to do? What are we going to do? I say, our property's half empty. This is, we can still renovate. Our plan's going ahead.
I got to say, we signed an LOI on March 10th, and I mean, even 5 days, we had no idea. Yeah. I mean, it was just like, yeah, COVID's getting bad. Yeah. People are worried about it, but nobody had a clue what was going to happen with that.
Yeah. I mean, look, we didn't know what was going to happen with it either.
Yeah,
I mean, we went under contract in December, November. So, we were kind of committed at that point by when COVID really starts ticking up and up and up, but it worked out really well for us. I want to say we bought for 73 a door, and we ended up selling it for 100 in December 21.
Yeah. Yeah. Not bad. Not bad. Were there a lot of challenges getting through that COVID market?
It was difficult. I mean, the renovations took a lot longer than we had expected. Leasing velocity was slow for a while. I mean, let's all remember, it's not like the rent growth in COVID happened instantly. It took a little bit. I want to say the beginning of 2021, almost 9 months into it, we just went to the leasing staff because, it's not on-site managed, but the people who are managing the property, we were just like, look, it's 6 weeks until the end of January or whatever it is. Like, we will give you some ridiculous, like we will give you hundreds of dollars for every lease if you hit a minimum of this occupancy.
Yeah.
We had the collections issues that so many had. People had. South Carolina was gonna, so we had, I don't know, 40,000 of delinquency or something on a 32 unit property.
Ooh, that's a lot.
South Carolina, it was a lot. That's COVID for you. And
Yeah.
people remember the highlights. They don't remember the lowlights. But South Carolina rolls out their like rent relief fund or whatever it is in 2021. And that was another conversation with our property managers where we told them, look, this thing is going to, like, if we don't apply soon, it's going to run out of money.
Yeah.
Like it will. There's, let's just say there was 100 million, there was 200 million of delinquency. So I want people signed up for ASAP. And we told, talk about leasing, and we gave them leasing incentives to lease the property for the delinquency. We told them, this is the delinquent rent. We'll give you something like 20% as a bonus of all the money we recover from whatever the emergency fund was, because I want people signed up now. I do not want this thing running out. I want to recover it, and it needs to be submitted beforehand.
That's a smart play right there. I mean, we had properties also in South Carolina, just different. We were upstate instead of coastal, but we had properties in South Carolina where we did the same thing with our property management company. It was just like $100, and we wanted to go straight to the leasing agent. The person who's in charge of leasing, we were giving them $100 bonus every time they put a qualified tenant into one of our properties at that point. And I mean, the way we looked at it was, we're either going to lose. Rents on this property were around $900. We're either going to, $100 to get somebody who pays $900 a month is totally worth it. And having it go straight to the leasing agent, we did it that way just because they're the ones who are on the calls, and they're the ones, it was a small property. So the property management company has several places that they can place them into. And the leasing agent knows they're going to get $100 bonus for filling ours first. We're going to fill ours first. But anyway, I like that. I like that idea. I didn't think of the, go get the state funds and give them bonuses on that. That's brilliant.
Oh, no, so I'll follow up with this in terms of the bonus. We had another property where we had, 30+% vacancy, and we were having the discussion, like, if an average lease is $1,000, I would pay $500 leasing bonuses. Like you tell me you're getting a $12,000 bonus, like, because I can explain that away on a T12 in no time. Like, hey, this isn't a real, this isn't a recurring expense. This is a one-time thing, so don't carry it forward. But yeah, the value of leasing staff and incentivizing them, I think, cannot be understated, especially when you've got flagging occupancy.
Yeah, absolutely. Bird in the hand, right? So, well, cool. Let's transition a little bit. I want to talk about what I call the big burning why. What motivates you, and why do you keep on getting up in the morning to do stuff and make money?
Well, the easy answer is my wife.
Yeah,
I've got a wife. I got to take care of her.
Yeah.
And then I guess it would be a downstream from that. I don't try to sugarcoat it. We are in this business to deliver for investors. It's an added bonus. It's an added benefit that when we buy a property, we improve it, we bring it up to date, we make it a safe community, we make it we think we make the properties better every time we buy them. But I'm not going to sit here and tell you like, oh, I get into this because I want to do everything for the tenants. My job is to deliver for my investors, to do well by them. I do well by the tenants by doing it.
Yeah.
But my job is to deliver for the investors.
Yeah. And one thing I like about this community is that everything is aligned fairly well. If you take care of the tenants, it costs more, but it ends up coming back to you. So the best way to take care of your investors in most cases is to take care of properties and to take care of tenants. And so it ends up being this, synergistic thing where everybody benefits if you're doing it right. But yeah.
And you've done value add too. We've, no, people don't want to live in 1970s apartments anymore. It's not the 1970s. Not that we don't enjoy shag carpet and lava lamps, but people generally don't want them.
Mansard roofs, wow, those things are terrible, but there's still a lot of them out there. I think, I once said this, and I haven't followed up on it. My goal in life was to get rid of every mansard roof in existence, but some people like it, I guess. But yeah, 70s apartments. Geez. All right. So last question. What's next for you?
We are, kind of following up on how things are going, because we don't have that floating rate debt burden hanging over our head. Our investors are pretty happy. We see a lot of opportunity right now. I've seen half a dozen properties marketed for less than they sold for. We're going to try to take advantage of, some distressed sales and try to deliver for our investors in that capacity. We're in a good position with our company. We're going to focus on growing and delivering more results for our investors.
Nice. Nice. Awesome. Well, we're going to switch gears here, and Vanessa's been patiently waiting. So Vanessa, how's everything going?
Good. It's been going good. It's great to hear Will's story.
Well, hey, thanks for coming on the show with us today, and do us a favor. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
I am currently in Washington State. I was born and raised here. I'm currently 28 years old. I'm a mother of 3.
Mm-hmm.
I started real estate about 2 years ago. Prior to that, there's a lot of agriculture here in Washington State before I got married, and then I transitioned to school bus driver. Then I had my children and I became a stay-at-home mom. And when I became a stay-at-home mom, we were trying to find a way for me to bring income while I was here at home. So we started looking and reading books, and everything kind of led to real estate. So we started watching YouTube videos. I think everybody does that.
Yep.
And a couple of mentors, ads came on, and we chose one. We went into their mentorship and for single family, and we started fix and flipping.
Nice.
Yeah, this was 2 years ago. And after fix and flip, we kind of started seeing market changes, and we want to kind of diversify a little bit, look somewhere else. And we were introduced to the multifamily world about 9 months ago. And that's what brought me here.
Awesome. So a lot of it was just like for the extra income so you could be a stay-at-home mom.
Yes.
I love it.
Yes.
Yeah, my wife was a stay-at-home mom for a good 20 years, and she just got back into the workforce after a long hiatus. But anyway, great. I think it's a good answer. Not the right answer for everybody, but glad you were able to make that work out.
Yes.
So next question, and I mean, you talked a little bit about why you're doing it, but if we can go a little bit deeper into that, what's your why?
My whys, I always say I have 3 major whys. First one's my little kids, my children. I want them to have a different mindset than what I grew up with, where you have to have a W-2, you're 9 to 5, and you have to go to college. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just I want them to look other ways too. Better education for them, better mindset for them. My second one is my personal growth, invest in me, in my knowledge, my education. And my third one is my family, and being able to give back to others. Yeah, those are my big whys.
Yeah. That middle one doesn't come up very often, for my own personal growth. I like it though. It's the better you are at managing things or creating things or doing things, or you do learn a lot about everything. So like it. All right. Well, we're going to try to help you out as much as we can. So Vanessa, we got Will on the line. What do you want to ask?
It was nice hearing your story, Will. I do have a few questions. From all of these properties, what has been the biggest lesson you've learned that might benefit new investors?
From the perspective of getting started in multifamily, my biggest lesson, and what I always tell people, is start small and start in a specific market. Start small for all the reasons we obviously discussed, but start in a specific market. I don't know if that would be Washington State for you, or if for regulatory reasons you do not want to invest in Washington State. I've bought 2 properties in California. I will never do it again. Never say never, but I will most likely not ever. Focus on a very specific market, because you need to build those brokerage relationships. You need to understand what the market is going for. You don't want your broker network to be a mile wide and an inch deep. You want it to be very concentrated, and so you have a lot of knowledge. And when they think of something that might not even be listed, you can see it before anybody else does. And again, you want to do it at a price point that's accessible. I never encourage people to start off by saying, I'm going to dive right into $20 million properties.
Yeah. Solid. I would look back. I mean, when I look back at all my lessons learned, I think partners, is probably the biggest thing. And most people, when they start a new venture like this, are doing everything. It's hard to hard to not, but eventually you want to find people who can do the things that you're not good at and operate in the space that you perform well at, whatever that space is, whatever your talent or your super skill is, try to operate as much as possible in that space.
Awesome. My next question kind of has to do with what you just said. When you work with somebody new, what are some qualities or some key points you look in them?
So that I'll admit that one's a little difficult for me to answer because, working with my twin brother, I didn't have to discuss a lot of what the objectives were ahead of time. We were pretty in sync on that one. But as far as, we work with a lot of limited partners as investors. One of the big things is you want to make sure that your incentives are aligned. If they want to hold long term, but you're trying to go shorter term so you can build up and scale up to larger properties, that's obviously not going to be a match. If you are working with, more passive investors, though, you also need to make sure that they value what you do, and that even if that's simple things like promotes or acquisition fees, which we kind of take for granted. I one time had a meeting with an investor who said, I don't want to give you an acquisition fee. I don't want to give you a promote. I just want to do pari passu. And I thought they're thinking, this person literally doesn't value anything I do. The definition of that.
Yeah.
You want to
Yeah.
make sure your incentives are aligned, and you want to make sure they value what you're bringing to the table.
Yeah. I like the alignment piece. I mean, I think that's something that, I had a partnership that I ended up leaving, and there was a lot of initial alignment, but when we started moving forward, our alignment was a little bit off. What was the answer? And you do have to be aligned, but when I'm looking at people, I mean, number one, the alignment has to be there. I think that is the most important thing. The next thing is, I look at two things: where they're at now and what their potential is. So if I'm talking with somebody the first time and then, or second time, and I realize they have enormous potential, I'll kind of ignore where they're at right now if they're brand new because of that potential. So I look at two different things there. Is, yeah, number one, alignment has to be there, and number two, there has to be potential. And if you can check both those boxes, I'll very likely work with somebody.
Great. Awesome. Another question is, with the difficulties in the market right now, have you had any changes with your criteria, like class types, specific returns, or any key indicators you guys look for?
Our criteria were naturally changing going into the rate hike cycle because when we started, we wanted to do shorter term holds. So we could, what we always told investors was, I'm not asking you to marry me. I'm asking you to date me. See if you like how we perform. So, as we were ending 21, moving into 22, we were planning on going longer on a lot of assets. That has changed, but not as a direct result of the market changing. As far as how we've changed what we look for in the market, cash flow is more important, but basis and exit valuations. Brian, you can probably sympathize with this. There was a period in 2021 through 2022 where no one ever raised an eyebrow at your exit valuation. And now, you're doing a 6 cap exit and people say, oh, but your price per door is so high at the end. What do I do? It's like, you were doing a 4 cap exit 6 months ago, and my 6 doesn't work.
Yeah.
So, it's basis has become a lot more important, and the story of the existing seller has become a lot more important. People want to feel like they're getting a really good opportunity. It's not, people aren't just rushing to get into properties like they were in 2021.
Yeah. One thing that I've definitely changed, I wouldn't say I've changed, I've just been a little more deliberate about it. I've always liked the idea of longer term holds, and the partnership that I was in up front, I mean, we were talking about, 5 to 7 year holds, 5 to 8 year type stuff, and where the rubber met the road, when there was a good time to sell, when the market started going up, my partners were all, hey, let's sell. We can exit, we can make some money, we can get, establish a track record, which is all well and good. But I was just like, I kind of wanted to hold this for 7 or 8 years, so that, like I said, that was part of the misalignment right there, was just the different philosophies on hold times, and so right now, where we are in the market, I think the market is still sliding. The prices have gone down over the last year to 18 months. I think we're still sliding. We haven't bottomed out yet. If the interest rates are still kind of a gradual up and then another gradual down, I think we're just going to touch the bottom and just gradually start going back up. But I still think it's a good time to buy, number one. But number two, when I start looking at, potentially holding the properties longer, all of a sudden, a lot of the prices that we're looking at, we can stretch prices a tiny bit. If we're trying to flip something in 3 years, that's where like a lot of the fees that we pay, all the closing costs, really start adding up. But when you're looking over, a 8, 10, 12-year horizon instead of a 2 or 3, you can start making numbers work a little easier. So yeah, we are looking longer term holds. We're looking for properties that we want to own for 20 years, and not properties that we want to flip. And that's kind of been a gradual change. But once I started my own business, that's how we started implementing things.
Mhm. Wow. Okay. That's awesome. One last question. Did you have any mentors in your journey?
I mean, I would say that I have a few people that I go to who have significantly more real estate experience than I do. But, a lot of times when people talk about mentors in the multifamily space, they're talking about like a mentor program or a mastermind. I never did anything like that. Now, the other side of that coin is I went to a master's program for it. I had a lot of professors. Some of them I've worked with, some of them I still talk to. So in that sense, I have a mentor, but not in terms of the mastermind or course way that a lot of people commonly associate it.
Okay.
I've done several mentorship programs. I think finding an organic mentor tends to be difficult. Finding somebody who's willing to give time to somebody to teach them how to do things. I've ended up paying for a lot of mentorships, and I've got, right now I've got a couple different people that I pay to, sit down with and chat with them. I paid $500 to talk with somebody for an hour yesterday, so, it's one of those things where I don't think you can understate the importance of a good mentor or somebody who can help you think bigger or reach higher. So yes is the answer. Lots and lots and lots of them.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So honestly, we're going to hit the 6-figure mark in mentorship this year.
Wow.
Yeah. But anyway.
That's impressive.
Yeah. I mean, my first mentorship was a multifamily mentor, and I was looking at the then $25,000 payment. They charge a lot more now, but I was looking at that as like, holy cow, that's a lot. But I think what I've really learned from that is that I go a lot faster and a lot further. And I've made a lot more money when I hire mentors than when I try to do it myself.
That's right.
So anyway.
So Brian, I want to add on to that a little bit. And one of the things I also tell people, and you mentioned this earlier when they're starting out, is you want to have a partner.
Mhm.
Because I know people who get into this industry and they want to buy things, and they're friends of mine, and they'll be looking at a deal and they'll try to get my opinion on it. And I'm focusing on my own projects. I'm doing all this stuff. So like I can look at it, but I'm not as invested as they are.
Mhm.
And when you have that partner, or in some cases a mentor, they're invested in your success more so than a lot of other people. So when they're giving you feedback, it's not cursory, it's not off the top of their head. Having someone in the foxhole with you, so to speak, mentor, partner, I think is incredibly valuable.
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome.
Mhm.
Well, we are about out of time. Vanessa, amazing questions. Thank you very much. I got one question for each of you to round out the episode today, and that's how can listeners learn more about you? And Will, go ahead and go first.
So I like to think I'm pretty easy to get in touch with. I'm pretty active on LinkedIn in terms of posting about stuff constantly. People love my interest rate rants. But if you want to get in touch with me more directly, there's LinkedIn. You can go to our website, which is mathcap.com, or you can email me directly at will@mathcap.com.
Awesome. All right. And Vanessa, same question for you. How can listeners learn more about you?
Yeah, I am on Facebook as Vanessa Medina, also on LinkedIn. I'm getting new to LinkedIn, but I will be posting very soon. I am a lot more active in Facebook.
Awesome. All right. So we'll post links to websites and profiles in the show notes for anybody who wants to, reach out and learn more about these two. But that said, guys, thanks for coming on the show today. Very much appreciate it.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Brian.
Hey, if you like that episode, make sure to subscribe. But more importantly, if you haven't joined our multifamily educational community yet, which we call the Tribe of Titans, you are missing out. Get 30 days free by clicking the link in the description to this episode, or go to thetribeoftitans.info, and we'll see you there.